Ryan and I are here with a preview of Ascension Legends. This is the latest standalone expansion for Ascensions. If you're a fan of Ascension,
yeah, which I am, big fan.
We both are. This is probably of the straight-up deck builder games. I think I cut my teeth on a different one, but this is the one that really stands up there as sort of the straight-up deck builder.
For me as well. I mean, I played this well before I actually played Dominion and other games like that. And this was the first to introduce like the market row where the cards actually like cycle through as you buy them, which was interesting, more exciting.
Yeah.
And so this is a standalone expansion, as a lot of them are. But Legends kind of is going to serve as a new onboarding point too for new players because it kind of changes up the gameplay a little bit by introducing tracks, which is right up my alley and not something that we've ever seen in Ascension before. But besides that, it does play pretty similar to the base Ascension games. So if you know how to play Ascension, then, stay tuned for the new stuff. But I think some people might be experiencing Ascension now for the very first time.
Yeah, you'll feel right at home, but like Ryan said, I think after having now played this, I personally really can't imagine not wanting to play Ascension without it.
Board,
like these tracks are really cool. This is where you're going to spend Renown, which is a new thing that you're going to be acquiring in this game, to go up these legendary tracks. These tracks all lead to a different legend. We have 4 right here, but there are going to be 8.
2 for every different faction.
Yeah, 8 in the actual game. You're going to have these Renown markers that move up these tracks, and let me tell you, they move up the tracks a lot. They're going to move up the tracks when you acquire a card from the card row of that same faction, when you defeat a monster of that same faction. Some of the cards will actually let you get Renown on specific ones, or maybe of any of your choice.
Yeah, and this kind of feels a little bit like the character cards. If you remember the legendary characters, I know I like to use those in every expansion. You had your own personal one that you could kind of level up and gain access to their abilities. In this game, you have access to all 4, and you can actually trigger all 4 abilities. Every time you get to one of these numbered spots that are the yellow background, you get to trigger the ability of the card, whichever card happens to be up there. It's going to be the same card for the whole game, but these are abilities that fit right in with the factions. The Enlightened one, for example, lets you draw a card. The Void Hero lets you call out a card. Feels kind of like those cards that you used to have. But when you get to the very top, if you actually manage to make it to the very top, you unlock a very special ability. Once per turn, you can just acquire or defeat a card of that faction for free. That's pretty huge.
Which is crazy, and I think that will serve, correct me if I'm wrong, you've played more Ascension than I have. I feel like that will, once someone gets up there, certainly speed up the game.
Well, sure. The game, if you've never played, the game is kind of on a timer. There's a certain number of points in the pool based on how many characters, and once those points are gone, the game ends. So yeah, if you're defeating a free monster every round, potentially, if there's a monster in the row that matches that faction, you can really rack in those points. But because of this cool way that you're moving up every time you're buying a card or fighting a monster, they've reintroduced the dual faction cards, which are pretty cool. I've always loved the dual faction cards. I think a lot of fans do. But now when you buy one of the dual faction cards or defeat one of the dual faction monsters, you get to go up both tracks.
Yeah,
so it feels even better.
Well, and plus, once the game gets going, you're not limited to doing that once. If I acquire 2, maybe 3 cards, if it's something crazy, or defeat a monster and acquire
like later
cards,
in the game,
I'm going up on all of those tracks. So remembering to go up on those tracks, it happens so often that you really do need to remember, I need to go up on these tracks.
It's like an extra step on your turn.
You move up these pretty quickly, and like we said, you're triggering these things pretty frequently. Every third hit is going to trigger that ability, which is further going to extend your turn. It really makes the excitement of the turn, and with all these types of games, there's a lot of cascading turns. This adds even more to that.
Well, who doesn't like going up tracks and getting rewards? I mean, it's very satisfying, especially some of these cards that additionally move you up. When you play the cards, they move you up. But there was a monster we found that moved you up one of every faction, which is pretty cool. So, and we also have, let's talk about some of the new stuff.
Yeah.
Because, of course, this is all brand new. A lot of this is the same, but the decks are different. You've got a ton of new cards, but there are also 2 new card types that we want to talk about that they're introducing. One is called the Remnants, and these are monsters that are linked to very specific factions.
Yeah, when you defeat one of those monsters, it says that if you have played or acquired a related card, you're able to cull a card out of your deck.
Well, for that one particularly.
That's for the Void Remnants,
Yeah, there's
for sure.
the Mechna Remnant right here as well, which, again, these kind of give you, if you played the game, you know what the factions
They kind
do.
of line into these same sorts of powers.
They do. They line into the powers. The Enlightened Remnant lets you draw cards. The Mecha Remnant gives you extra runes to spend on your turn. So you'll find those remnants mixed in. Then there are some that are not aligned to factions that just move you up any. You get to choose which legendary track you move up, which are pretty good as well.
Yeah, and then there's the Unite ability as well.
Well, the Unite ability is back, so we have that. If you've never played, that's something that gives you a bonus for playing cards of the same faction. So they brought back Unite, but then they introduced a new version of Unite,
yes,
which is called Emissary. And there are these Emissary cards now mixed into the deck. There's one for every faction. This is a new type of Unite that triggers for other emissaries. So it's not a Unite that needs you to have, go down the same path and just get life bounds. If you collect a bunch of different emissaries of different factions, they will trigger off of each other. And in fact, the Enlightened Emissary, if you play all 4 emissaries, you just flat out win the game, which is pretty cool. That gives you another alternate win condition, which again, is very rarely going to happen because no one's going to let you get all 4.
But it is very cool.
If you could pull that off, that's pretty cool. And so these emissaries are like just more powerful versions of cards for each one of the different factions.
Yeah, so those are all of the new things that are in Ascension Legends. And of course, it is Ascension. So, if you haven't played Ascension, I'm sure we have content up. Everyone else has content up on base game Ascension, but it is a very straightforward deck builder where you're playing all your cards, you're doing all the things. It's incredibly rewarding on your turns, and I think Legends, to me, feels even more rewarding. This is going to be something, like, I don't know that I would ever play normal Ascension.
Right, when you have this
I would play with this board and using these tracks for sure. And in fact, I'd love to see in the future whether or not there will be even more than 8 different cards. Because, obviously it's within the scope of the design of the game, but there's a lot of opportunities here. And the fact that you can get up to the top of those things and just like willy-nilly every round go, destroy, acquire, it's really exciting.
Well, and we mentioned this before. David called this a standalone, and I mentioned that I think this is a good jumping on point because it doesn't feel overburdened for new players. Like some of the expansions have introduced crazy like pirate ships sailing across islands and just new tokens and new resources and dice to roll and things like that. Now, once you're familiar with the game, you can still add on any of those expansions onto the top of this instead of the base. And in fact, in the campaign, they're introducing a new packaging for expansions called core decks, where they assume that you have the base and now you can buy just the deck, which is really what you need for all the different expansions, the decks and any kind of like specialized cards that come in that. So they're offering like all the way back from the beginning. So you can mix and match these cards, you can shuffle them all together, you can choose which main deck to use. So if you really enjoy Ascension and you're looking for a good jumping off point, get Legends, learn Legends, and then you can start adding expansions in as you kind of see fit.
Yeah, for sure. Be sure to check out their campaign on GameFound for those details. But if you have any questions about this, please make them in the comments below. We'll get down there and answer whatever we can. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.